The Sportscast, September 24th, 2021. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all our channels, YouTube, Twitch.tv, Twitter, and Instagram. We're on Instagram Live as well, and Apple Podcasts. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, please leave a rating and review. It will help us out tremendously. Visit us on thesportscast.net, thesportscast.net, or on our Twitter, thesportscast1. You can also get our app, The Sportscast for iOS, which you can download in the Apple iOS store, and I know a lot of you guys are getting the new iPhone 13, so why not? All right, last night, Thursday Night Football, the Panthers defeated the Houston Texans 24-9. A couple of points we want to get into this. Of course, we saw a rookie quarterback. Davis Mills starred over Tyrod Taylor. No Deshaun Watson. Still not, but we'll see if things change in Houston. Joining us all the way from Pennsylvania, Jeff Fawver. Welcome back to the Sportscast.
Thank you, Santiago. I appreciate you having me.
Interesting couple of weeks. AFC West, not what I thought. Broncos are top, heavy. Same for the Raiders. Chiefs, you can say they had a hard schedule, but what's going on with the AFC West?
Well, first of all, it's really early. 2 weeks in, every year we do this, we make like these big, bold predictions after a week or two, and some of them hold true and some don't. Teddy Bridgewater's played well enough for the Broncos to win. They have a really good defense. Other side of that argument is they've played about as easy of a schedule as you possibly can. The Raiders, we saw this with the Raiders last year. They looked good early in the year and started out really well, and they just fell apart down the stretch. So if their defense can be just a little bit better and not fall apart in the second half of the year, the Raiders might be better than a lot of people expected. Carr's playing well. Gruden put him in a system that fits his strengths. Their weapons are decent. Their offensive line, even though it's beat up a little bit, has been pretty good. And then with the Chiefs, look, they did everything wrong in that fourth quarter. Mahomes throws the pick that was the first time he's thrown an interception in September. Clyde fumbles for, I believe, the first time in his career, and you lose by 1 point. So was it a bad way? Any way you lose is a bad way to lose. The bigger part of it is just that the Ravens were ravaged by injuries and the Chiefs were almost completely healthy and they still lost the game. So that's less than ideal. But again, it's one game. Last year they lost their first game, and I believe it was week 5 against the Raiders. And then they didn't lose another game the rest of the year except for when they rested their starters at the end of the year. So it's really early to make any big predictions or anything like that. But when I look at it, I think the Raiders have some staying power. I'm not saying they're a Super Bowl contender, but I think they're going to be around a bit. The Broncos, I at least want to see them play a team with a pulse before I really make any bold statements about them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, who has more tell, the Raiders or the Broncos? You're saying the Raiders.
The Raiders, absolutely. Because the Raiders have – I still think Carr's a better quarterback than Teddy Bridgewater. And even though the Broncos' defense is better, to this point, it doesn't look like the Raiders' defense is the complete just mess that it's been in the past. Now, again, just to play devil's advocate, early in the year, the Raiders' defense definitely looked better against the Ravens than the Chiefs did, no doubt about that. But then the Raiders played the Steelers as well. The Steelers' offense has looked pretty rough both games. So what conclusion can you draw from how well you played against the Steelers' offense that just doesn't look good regardless of the opponent? But if I'm a Raiders fan, what actually encouraged me the most was in that game against the Steelers, there's always a couple plays that determine NFL games. A vast majority of weeks, they're not these big blowouts. I mean, there are some, but for the most part, the competitive games come down to just a few plays. And Carr hitting that big I believe it was like a 60-yard touchdown to Henry Ruggs. That play stood out to me because in the past, Carr might just take the sack or he doesn't unleash it downfield. And he trusted his guy to run under it. And that touchdown was a huge difference. And that, to me, was a big deal if I'm someone that wants to see the Raiders do well, because Carr made a play that he generally doesn't make. And then the defense also, kind of hung tough and hit the quarterback and did the things they needed to do.
I remember we were talking about this, I think 2 years ago, that we didn't think Gruden liked Carr.
Yeah, and maybe he didn't at that time. I don't think Gruden likes anybody.
Or was he bluffing, saying, "Hey, if you're not playing, you're gonna be out in a few months" or something like that?
Yeah, and I never thought the Mariota move was really to replace Carr, because Mariota is just
injury prone.
Yeah, he's just a backup at this point. But it also was at least something that you had a veteran quarterback to play if the bottom fell out on Carr. But yeah, I mean, I think Carr's looked good to this point, and the defense is definitely. I'm not going to sit here and say the defense is definitely going to be good, but it's clearly improved, which is all you really want to see at this point in the season.
Remember what Gruden did? He let go. He traded. He traded Khalil Mack for a few draft picks. Things are forming up.
Yep, absolutely, and they've definitely missed on their higher picks. That miss on Farrell, I believe he was the 4th overall pick in the draft. Now he's a healthy scratch on game days. That's not good. But getting Crosby later was a good get for them. And he's really he's the guy that stirs the drink on the defense.
Let's go into the Broncos. Yes. It's they beat the Giants easy. They beat the Jaguars easy. They got another easy game against the Jets this weekend. This is where things come down for the Broncos. They place the Ravens, then the Steelers, then the Raiders. So things are going to get tough for them. That's where we're going to see if they're the real deal or not.
Absolutely. And, again, you can only beat who's on your schedule. So obviously you can't fault them for just beating who lined up across from them. And maybe in years past they do drop one of those games, especially the road games. But I think the Broncos defense has staying power. That I think their defense has plenty of talent, especially in the secondary. Their back end is very good. Von Miller looks like himself.
A healthy Von Miller.
Yeah, yes, that makes a huge difference. Now Chubb, I think Chubb's a great talent, but man, he's just one of those guys. He's been beat up a lot. He's missed a lot of games, and he's played through injuries. So you hope Chubb gets healthy, and if he does, that's a really nice pass rush duo. But again, the hard part about the early season games is when you play such limited offenses. They play the Jags and the Giants. Those are not two offenses that really challenge you much. So their defense, I do think their defense is good, but we don't want to overstate it just yet based on what we've seen.
Real quick, Bridgewater, stay?
Well, I mean, Bridgewater's better than Locke. I mean, Teddy is what he is, and I don't think he's going to lose them a lot of games. Obviously, they don't want to get behind. Bridgewater's not the type of quarterback that if you fall behind, he's going to do heroic things to save the day. But if your defense is playing really well and you have a decent running game, he can certainly make a vast majority of the throws, and he's efficient. Whereas if you play Drew Lock, you're just kind of holding your breath until the pick six happens. And Locke may make more wow plays, but he's also going to turn the ball over. So, yeah, I think the Broncos made the right move with Teddy Bridgewater. And he's played well. From everything I've seen, he's played well.
Let's look at the other AFC West team, Chargers. They beat Washington, and they lost against the Cowboys by 3 points. What do you think about them? They're legitimate?
So Herbert is such a great talent, but it seems as though with them changing coaches and changing schemes, I see that he's struggling in the red zone a bit, but it's going to click for him at some point. And really, when you look at the AFC West, even though right now the Chiefs and Chargers are both 1-1, I think that at the end of the day, you have Mahomes and Herbert, and they're the two best quarterbacks. So long term, I still think the Chargers are a bigger threat than the Raiders or Broncos, just because they have that dynamic. No, I don't want to say great just yet because it's only his second year, but everything that we've seen so far is that, he's going to be a good quarterback for a while, and he can make all the dynamic plays. He throws the ball well down the field, can run for first downs with his legs. Just really been impressed with him overall.
I'm telling you, man, these West conferences, NFC, now AFC, I thought, NFC, but AFC is definitely forming up to be much more tighter competition. I know it's just 2 weeks. Like to see where that Broncos team really is when they face the Ravens, Steelers. Then after that, it's the Browns. So things will get bumpier in the road. Last night, the Panthers defeated the Texans 24-9. I will say Sam Darnold is looking the real deal. 300 throwing yards. Jeff, thoughts over this game?
Darnold was always when you talk about quarterbacks that could use a change of scenery and could actually bounce back, Darnold was always the guy that I felt had the talent. And it goes the whole way back. Now, this is a little bit ridiculous because college doesn't always go over to the NFL. But I will just never forget that bowl game where USC played Penn State. And Darnold just looked like Dan Marino in that game. I mean, he just made throw after throw after throw. And then he went to the Jets and just got beat up and had some injuries, got hit a lot. Now, you still see some of the issues that he had even with the Panthers. And maybe some of that is because their offensive line is beat up and he was under a lot of pressure. He's going to have to take better care of the football because he had a couple fumbles that they got back that they very well could have lost. But, man, I think he looks pretty good. He makes a lot of downfield throws. And that's what you need. If you don't make enough throws down the field, then defenses will just play all the underneath stuff really aggressive and take that away from you. So, yeah, obviously not having McCaffrey could be a big deal because I still don't think you want Darnold to just be the guy that has to throw the ball 50 times. Maybe he can get away with it a week or two.
Yeah.
But they're gonna need McCaffrey to come back when they get into the meat of their schedule.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey.
And I think it's just a couple-week injury from what I've heard to this point.
Correct, yeah. Christian McCaffrey got injured during the game yesterday. He'll be out for a few weeks. He got injured last year, and hopefully, this year doesn't look like he's going to be out all season, but definitely got injured. So we wish the best for him. Had a strained hamstring. Rookie quarterback for the Texans, Mr. Davis Mills, starting over Tyrod Taylor and Deshaun Watson. What'd you think about his performance?
So I know the score doesn't really indicate it, but I've been impressed with the fight the Texans have put up so far this year. Look, they're in the midst of a complete teardown and rebuild. There's just no other way you can look at it. They're right in the heart of completely rebuilding, and they still manage to fight and stay competitive. So I think that's certainly a good thing when you're looking at just whatever culture they've built there with the new coaching staff. They certainly don't just roll over and give up. I mean, they've that Browns game was pretty close, and then they hung tough against the Panthers for a majority of the game. But I think he played well. He made some throws. Obviously, they're going to have to score more points. They have to finish drives. That's going to be important. And I do think, you have Brandon Cooks, you have Anthony Miller, you have two receivers that can make a few plays. So that's good. But it's going to be a tough year for them. I mean, I don't know how you look at that team and say anything else. It's going to be a tough year for them.
Do you think we could see Deshaun eventually, or
no? Not with the Texans. Whatever happened there, and they're what a crazy situation with the legal stuff that has to play out and just everything that's going on there. If he was going to play for the Texans again, he would have played by now. I mean,
true.
Tyrod Taylor is a journeyman in the first place. Mills, I don't think, was a guy they wanted to play right away. If Watson was going to play, he would have by now.
I agree. Deshaun Watson, of course, requested a trade in the offseason. Has issues personally. 22 open investigations from the FBI. Of course, rumors of the Miami Dolphins wanting to acquire him and other teams as well. But the moves, Houston's asking for a lot, and it's a big risk. He's only 25 years old.
And that's why you have to ask for a lot, though, because if you're going to trade a franchise 25-year-old quarterback, I mean, you don't do it unless you get a ton in return.
Yeah, do the Khalil Mack moves.
It's got to be a lot. It's got to be even more than Khalil Mack.
I know.
I mean, unless Khalil Mack's going to play quarterback.
Correct. Of course, quarterback has a lot going on. Anyways, are you ready to preview Week 3?
Absolutely.
All right. First game, we got Chargers at Kansas City Chiefs. Divisional, of course. Kansas City needs a win, bounce back here.
Yeah, they do. And so coming off a loss, you're always more nervous than a normal week. But of all the teams in the AFC West, the Chargers have consistently played the Chiefs the tightest. And now they do have a new system there, new coaching staff, so you never know if there's follow through on that. The matchup that I think Austin Eckler is literally going to have the best performance of his life. I will not be in any way surprised if he has 200 yards and multiple touchdowns.
Please.
Yeah,
that'd be freaking awesome.
Yeah, well, I just look at the Chiefs linebacking. Their linebacker core right now is it's a problem. And Eckler's going to get lined up on those guys in passing situations, and he is just going to have the game of his life. With that said, I just think sometimes when statistics really go poorly against you, eventually they bounce back the other way, just because nobody is as bad or as great as they look. And the Chiefs so far this year have given up 8 red zone trips and 8 touchdowns. They have not stopped a single drive inside the red zone. That is impossible, no matter how bad your defense is. That eventually, even if it's just the offense doing something stupid to fall on their face, eventually that turns the other way. I see a shootout. I see a really high-scoring game. I think the Chiefs are going to win. It's going to be 35-32, and Butker is going to hit a game-winning field goal with very little time left.
My boy Butker, I had him last year in my it's crazy. We'll see what happens with Kansas City. It doesn't look good with the red zone. Let's look at Arizona Cardinals at Jacksonville. This Kyle Murray guy, I'm saying it, he's having an MVP season so far. I know just 2 weeks, but what's going to happen there?
Yeah, I love watching him play. Dynamic athlete, can throw it anywhere on the field. I think this could be one of those games that gets out of hand because the Cardinals offense has plenty of weapons. Murray makes the most of them. It's hard to get them off the field. And on defense, their pass rush is tuned up a bit, and Chandler Jones, man, he's off to a ridiculous start. And the Jaguars still kind of feeling their way. I just got done saying there's not many blowouts in the NFL, but I think the Cardinals could really run away with this one. Kind of it'll be like a 31-17 type game, but maybe the Jaguars have to score late just to get to 17.
We'll see if Hopkins gets a hand in that scoring. Chicago Bears at the Cleveland Browns. Justin Field is starting. What's going to happen there?
Against the grain and the popular thought, I think the whole thing with Fields has always been funny to me because I thought he looked great in the preseason, and it was odd that they're willing to go with Andy Dalton, who has over and again proven just kind of that he's a middle-of-the-road mediocre quarterback. I think this might be a high turnover game for Justin Fields, and I just think there could be some disappointment here on the Bears side. The Browns, they ugly up the game a bit because they run the ball so well. And even though the Bears have a really good defense, I think the Browns will do enough to win, especially I believe the Browns are at home this week, right? It's in Cleveland.
It's in Cleveland, that's correct.
Yeah. So,
and Odell Beckham is playing.
Okay, and that'll be a nice little boost for them. But I do think it'll be a lower scoring game. I think it'll be 21-17. But the Browns will win. And I think Fields will make some plays too. I'm not denying that. He'll make some plays. But I think he's going to turn the ball over a couple times, and that might be the difference in the game.
Will he perform enough to say Andy Dalton is QB2 now?
Nagy seems set on playing Dalton if he's healthy. And it's strange to me because I think you have to put the young guy out there and Let him make his plays. Let him take his lumps. Because if your defense can keep you in every game, then till you get to the end of the year, if you can make the playoffs with Fields, you might have a guy that's more seasoned by the time the games really matter. Whereas I think if you just keep playing Dalton, I just don't know what you get out of that for your offense.
Washington football team at the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen hammered the Dolphins last week. What's going to happen there?
I like the Bills. And Washington came into the year, everybody thinking their defense was going to be great. And up front, they are great, but the back end hasn't clicked yet. Their linebackers, the secondary. The only thing I will say, the game against the Steelers, the Bills just got beat up front. I mean, they lost the line of scrimmage. And if you're not careful against Washington, they will beat you up front. So do expect a close game, but I just get this feeling that this is a week that Josh Allen, I think he'll break out a little bit. You know, he hasn't quite been himself so far this year. I think he'll break out a little bit and just make a few more plays than Washington. And I think it'll be a 28-20 type game.
In Buffalo, Carson Wentz practiced this morning. The Colts are visiting Tennessee. Had an impressive overtime win last week against Seattle. Hey, Carson wants it. He's practicing. Tennessee, huge momentum coming in. What's going to happen in Nashville?
I like the Titans. And the biggest part of that is just that, I mean, the Titans defense is not good, but guess what? Even with the defense not being very good, they made enough plays to beat Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. So if you can make just enough plays to beat the Seahawks, you can make just enough plays to beat the Colts. And division games are always, you know how division games are. I mean, records don't matter a whole lot. The matchups are always unique. But I like what the Titans have done, saying, hey, we're going to run the heck out of the ball with Henry. And then when we do pass the ball, we have these two physical, dynamic specimens on the outside with Brown and Jones. And Tannehill does a nice job attacking down the field in the right moments. So I like the Titans by a touchdown.
But do you think this team still has to run through Derrick Henry?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
It's unquestionable because I know week 1 they did more throwing. They gave it to Derrick and just did not work out. But then week 2 they gave more to Derrick. Carries the team, man. No matter how good your receivers are.
It's very, very rare in today's NFL that the running back makes the quarterback go. Where, in most scenarios, the quarterback plays well, opens up the field, the running back gets their yards. But Henry is that rare exception. I mean, they need him to get going for the offense to really click.
Saints at New England. Saints had a good week 1. They did not do well week 2. The Patriots got a win in New Jersey. Mac Jones versus James Winston. What's going to happen there, Jeff?
I do think Belichick will get some turnovers out of Winston just because, Winston is that guy. He might throw 30 touchdowns and 28 interceptions, although he has looked a bit better this year so far. But Belichick, I mean, last week was against a rookie, Zach Wilson, but I mean, he had them in a bad way. Now, I do think the Saints will win though, just because they're very good up front on the offensive line. So I don't think they'll overwhelm Winston. I don't think they'll have him under constant duress like Wilson was with the Jets. But it's always tough going to New England. Belichick's still a great coach. They still have plenty of talent on defense. But this is going to be a tough week for Mac Jones, I think. The Saints will be ready. Their defense is still very talented, even if it's been beat up a little bit. So I like the Saints in a 24-21 type game.
Falcons, Atlanta may be the worst team in the NFL going against the Giants, which lost by a point against Washington last week. Will the Giants say, hey, we can do this in New Jersey and win it?
Yeah, that, again, going back to the division games always being tricky, but I thought the Giants looked better than what I was expecting, just to be blunt. That was a tough game. They very well could have won, just a couple, I think of the deep ball that was just missed. But, yeah, I mean, I think the Giants might get right here. They had the extra time off after playing on a Thursday.
You look doubtful.
What's that?
You look doubtful.
Yeah, it's. I don't feel. I don't know that I'm ever going to feel like super confident picking the Giants to win, but I think Barkley. Well, I think Barkley's going to continue to get better every week, and that's a big part of their offense. Or I guess maybe not to this point, but it will be a big part of their offense. Get his legs back underneath him. Had a few extra days of rest, so I think maybe Barkley can carry them a little bit in this game and win.
Not the most comfortable pick Jeff has given, but hey, Giants will win it in the MetLife. I don't say Meadowlands Stadium. It used to be called back in the day. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow at Pittsburgh. Roethlisberger is injured. Had a pectoral, but he's played through these before. What's going to happen there, Jeff?
Man, I keep thinking the Steelers' offense should at least get a little bit better, but it just doesn't happen.
You're not seeing it with Najee Harris either.
Yeah, and they bottomed out in the second half of last year, and it just seems as though they've continued on that trend. I really like Joe Burrow. He's one of my favorite young quarterbacks. And the Steelers are beat up on defense a little. The last time we saw Burrow play the Steelers, I was afraid that Burrow was going to need, resuscitated because of the hits that he was taking. He was just getting obliterated. I'm going to pick the Bengals. I don't know why, except for the Steelers just, until they get their offense doing something, they're gonna lean on their defense just so much. And that's not a recipe to win when you're not playing complementary football. So if the Steelers get their run game going just enough to give the defense a break, they'll win the game. But I just think that Burrow's he's just going to make a few plays, just enough. And it's going to be another one of these ugly games, which I feel like I've said that a lot this week. A lot of ugly games.
Week 3 is going to be ugly. Will there be more injuries?
No. I mean, I hope not. I'm just saying not a lot of points. So 20-14 Bengals.
Okay.
But I don't feel good about that one either.
How about this one? Ravens at Detroit. Hey, Jackson's doing it without a running back. What's going to happen there?
I think the Ravens will win, but
ugly.
Yeah, sometimes when you have those big emotional wins, right up until that fumble with a minute left, I don't think the Ravens were feeling too good about winning. That was a game that they needed the fourth quarter to just have everything go their way to win that game. And sometimes when you get that type of emotional lift, then you come out flat the next week. Detroit has played hard, and they gave Green Bay fits until, Green Bay started to pull away there. But yeah, the Ravens will win this game. It won't be pretty. They'll win by 10 points, but it'll probably be a game where it's pretty ugly for the better part of 3 quarters, and then they'll pull away in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it should be a good win for Detroit's doing well with Goff, I will have to say. The Jets at the Broncos. I think we discussed this. Looks like it'll be a Bronco win in Denver Mile High Stadium. It can't be anything else.
Well,
you're a Chiefs fan, so you hope not.
Well, I think the Broncos will win. I fear for Wilson in this game because the Broncos' pass rush is legitimate. The Jets aren't going to have their left tackle, and man, that just going in the Mile High is tough. It really is. That's one of the better home fields in all the NFL.
And the acoustics? I heard it's really loud.
It's loud, and it's a mile high, so it's harder to breathe. Right? So if you're not used to it. So yeah, I mean, I think this is just a game the Broncos defense just takes over, and I think they win big. I mean, this is probably a 2-touchdown game. It won't be in the the Broncos offense always seems to take a while to get going. You see a lot of the games where it feels like they should be winning by more than they are, but I think this is the week they win big.
Dolphins without Tua, Jacoby Brissett in the starting spot going against a hot Raiders. I would say hot Raiders. Is this the obvious?
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders. I think the Raiders will win, and the big thing for me is taking care of the football because the Dolphins defense forced turnovers, and Carr Carr seems to be a little bit streaky in that regard. He's pretty good at protecting the ball, but if you get him for one, you might get him for two or three. So the Dolphins, that'll be the equalizer if there is one. But the Raiders' defense has been better. The Dolphins' offensive line is also an underrated concern. They've invested heavily in the offensive line, but some of their picks just haven't panned out. So my concern would be you're already on your backup quarterback, and I think he's going to get hit a bit. So I'd see the Raiders winning, 28-21.
Sounds about right. Brady's first game in Los Angeles. The Bucs are heading to the Rams. What's going to happen there? It's going to be a good showdown. Probably their biggest challenge since the Cowboys.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the underrated parts of this is that the Bucs defense really hasn't played great to this point. They've given up a ton, and I know some of that is because they have more of a bend, don't break defense in the first place. But the Rams, and I believe Antonio Brown's out, if I'm not mistaken.
He is in the COVID protocol list, correct?
Yes. So odds, I guess he could come back, but the odds are probably against that at this point.
But you still have Mike Evans.
You do, but of all teams to play missing a receiver, it's kind of a big deal against the Rams because Ramsey will cover the other team's number one receiver and do a really good job. If you have both Brown and Evans, that's not that big of a deal. But when you don't have Brown and then put Ramsey on Evans, now all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more difficult. I still think the Bucs win. We
didn't talk about Chris Godwin, Gronkowski.
That's what I was going to say. And the other part of it is Aaron Donald is just this monstrous disruptor, but the Buccaneers' offensive line is so good. The Bucs are just loaded, man. I mean, the Bucs are loaded. Their front is great, and I think the way you have to beat them is to outscore them. But man, Brady's been sharp. Gronk looks good. I think the Bucs still win the game.
Will Gronk have 2 touchdowns again this weekend?
Man, it seems like you always say no, he shouldn't, but
he could.
With Brown out, they're probably going to force it to him in the red zone. So yeah, he probably will have 2 more.
And where's Scotty Miller?
Yeah. I hate to be this way, but who even cares? Because, you have all these other guys. I mean, Scotty Miller, I guess he'll make his play here and there, but
hey, the camera never points to him in the bench.
Yeah, you just have so many other weapons, you don't even get to the point where you need him.
Unbelievable. They definitely don't have scarcity. That's for sure.
No, not at all.
Seattle is going to Minnesota. Seattle lost last weekend's Tennessee. Minnesota's Minnesota. Nothing too sexy there. What's going to happen there? Besides their stadium.
Yeah. Big game for Cook is what I think comes out of this. But I always lean towards the quarterback.
Which he could play. He is questionable, so he could play.
Yeah. If he doesn't play, they're in big trouble. But
it's a difference maker.
Yeah. And the Vikings have some nice weapons with Jefferson and Thielen. But I just always lean towards the better quarterback, and that doesn't always work out that way. But I'm a big Russell Wilson fan, even if last week they faltered. And I just hard to see them losing 2 games in a row. So I like the Seahawks. A little bit higher scoring game. I think it'll be 35-31 Seahawks.
And the Vikes only lost by a point against Arizona in Arizona. So, and they lost 3 points against the Bengals. So I don't know. They could edge it out.
Maybe they just lose by 3 points every week. I don't know.
That's true. That could happen. And finally, Green Bay told the world we're back. They beat Detroit last Sunday. San Francisco, everyone is talking about San Francisco, how good they are, though Kittles is not performing as much. What's going to happen in Levi Stadium this Sunday Night Football?
That's an Aaron Rodgers game. And the 49ers defense has a ton of talent. I mean, I like the 49ers. I think they're an NFC contender at the end of the day. But Aaron Rodgers going back to the Bay Area, playing against Jimmy G. I mean, I look at that and think, again, going back to the better quarterback. Week 1 was really bad for the Packers. It just seemed like they wanted to get the worst game ever out of their system and played a lot better against Detroit. And I think the defenses will keep it a lower scoring game, but 28-17, but it'll take a late touchdown by Rodgers to get them there.
Has Jimmy G solidify his position there?
Man, I just don't. I mean, I think Trey takes over at some point during the year. I just don't know when.
We'll see. Yeah. Jimmy G has time. That's what Jeff says. He has time to prove it.
Yeah, I think he is what he is. It's just a matter of if they trust Trey.
That's the thing. Rookie quarterback drafted at number 4, I believe. So looking at this weekend, Jeff, I think you said the word that could summarize this weekend. It could get ugly.
Yeah, well, early season football is always ugly, but then we get so desperate when football's not around that we forget that early season football is a little bit more ugly. We'll start, once you get past the first 4 weeks, it'll start getting to where teams play a little bit better and there's not as many penalties and just as many mistakes and things. And the good teams will separate themselves from the bad teams a little bit more as well.
And I hope there's no more injuries this weekend. Last weekend was about 15, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, every weekend's going to have some injuries because football is just so violent, but you hope that there's less of it just seems like these first couple weeks always are loaded with the really serious injuries, so you hope for a lot less of those.
Other news, there will be a wild card playoff game on Monday night, first time in NFL history this season.
The NFL owners would let the players play without helmets if they could find a way to make more money doing it. I mean, that's all that's about. I mean, I don't know, man. I hate to be the...
It's a money grab.
Yeah, I mean, that's all it is. I mean, I hate to be the old guy complaining, but...
and they used to hit harder back in the day.
Yeah, well, so
apparently.
The team that wins on Monday night is going to have a short week. I mean, I know it's only one day, but they're going to have a short week for a playoff.
It does make a difference, though.
It does. Absolutely.
24 hours, dude. It's a lot of time.
A playoff game.
Playoff game.
Ugh.
I don't know.
I don't love it. I don't love it.
Where's the NFLPA? Anyways.
Cashing their checks, I guess.
Probably. What poll question of the day, what is your favorite punctuation? Period, question mark, comma, or semicolon?
Man, I don't even know. I'm going with an exclamation point because I like to bring the energy.
Exclamation point, which is not one of the choices, but it's okay.
Look, I'm going against it. I need the exclamation point.
There you have it. Well, anyways, NFL weekend, week 3 this weekend. Every weekend is exciting in NFL. Jeff, what is the best way to reach you online to talk to you about Steelers, barbecue, Kansas City, all that jazz?
The best way to follow along is at JT Fawver.
The reason why I tagged Steelers with you, because you live in Pennsylvania, I think your wife is a Steelers fan.
My wife's an Eagles fan. But
Eagles, that's right.
I am surrounded by a lot of Steelers fans.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
So you do have some sentiment with them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I hear about Steelers stuff all the time.
I don't know, man. I think Big Ben I think we're going to see Rudolph again this season.
At some point this year, probably.
Okay. Anyways, you can reach us at thesportscast.net, thesportscast.net, or on our Twitter, thesportscast1. We are doing now Twitter Spaces, so you can definitely join us there and go through the live chat. We'll definitely let you guys know when is our next Twitter Space to discuss who's better, Lockett or Metcalf, things like that. Who do you think is better, Lockett or Metcalf?
I think Lockett's more consistent, but man, Metcalf, his ceiling is like borderline untouchable. So, but I would take Lockett on a play-to-play basis.
One guy said Lockett is the alpha of those two receivers.
I don't know about that. Metcalf might be the alpha of the universe. That dude is huge and built like a rhinoceros. So that's tough.
Anyways, Jeff, great to preview week 3. Definitely great to recap last night, Thursday night football, not Tuesday night football. That might happen in the future, probably.
If we have COVID again, maybe.
Maybe. All right, Jeff Fawver, thanks for coming on to the Sportscast.
All right, thank you, Santiago.